today wouldn't look like Arnold. Arnold today would be unbeatable. He wouldn't look like the Arnold that people would call a little smooth back then. Arnold. He would be, but he wouldn't. I don't think he'd walk around with shredded glutes. Who needs the shredded glutes?
Somebody put a Photoshop of him on Facebook.
Yeah, so it was not.
I don't know whose body that is, but it's not his.
But you know what? They have. Back then, you didn't have liquid amino acids with no calories, so you could build.
Okay, save it, because we'll talk about it. This is good.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is what we're going to do. We're going to start out, and then we'll just carry it through.
Yeah, this will be easy.
And then at the end, we'll plug wherever you are and what you're doing.
In fact, this will be so easy that depending on the response, you and I could talk forever. You know what I mean? So the topic.
I should have brought food in.
I like you. I ate right before I came here. But
no, but I had lox and eggs.
Yeah, I'm starting pre-conscious again.
Yeah. Well, lox and eggs isn't bad.
Yeah, well,
and cottage cheese.
The problem is I eat so much food.
Yeah.
That's part of my problem. I'm getting a GH gut almost without GH because
I do too.
I really think the problem today. I mean, insulin is a problem, the GH is a problem, but people have been led to believe today that to look huge, you need to eat huge.
Yeah.
And it's causing problems with the gut, even with people that don't do GH.
I don't think you need to do that. We'll talk about that too.
Yeah. I can't help eating too much. That's my problem.
I can't. I don't have the appetite. But are you ready to go?
Yeah.
Are you ready to go?
I'm good.
Then let's go. Okay, welcome to Rick's Corner. I have Jeff Behar here today, who I've known for quite a while, basically from Venice Beach.
Yeah.
And Jeff's a bodybuilder. He's a trainer. He's won so many contests that I can't even begin to list them all. He's been a judge. He knows the sport very, very, very well. He's in and out of it. He knows the ups and the downs and the zigs and the zags, and we're going to talk about it, okay?
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. So I read that you started training at the age of 13.
Yeah, I started at 13. I was a little runt, really, and I was trying to bulk up for football. I didn't want to be used as a tackling dummy, which is what the coaches kind of did when I first went out for it.
Yeah.
People weren't that big back then, but I was still around 200-pound people, and I was probably $110. So the lifting was purely to just be in better shape and to be able to play football.
Did you know what fit size on you?
I don't think I was that smart back then.
None of us were. We didn't even know what to feel for.
Yeah, it's back then. As I started to train, I sold my. I had a PV guitar and a Fender Stratocaster guitar and an amp, and I sold that for my first set of weights. And I started building out the basement with a hack squat machine and other things. And
I have a PV amp right there.
Oh, there you go. So you understand.
You started with powerlifting?
I started weightlifting at 13, so I didn't really know much about powerlifting. No. But I was always like most young, naive weightlifters, you try to lift as much heavy weight as possible.
Of course, we all do.
As we learn later, there's other ways to get big besides always pushing around the heavy weight.
But bench press and deadlifts.
Bench press, squats, deadlifts.
Basis.
And I had hack squats. Not that back then most people wouldn't hack squat, but my football coach sold me a machine. It looked pretty cool.
Yeah.
And when you're working on your basement by yourself, it's kind of dangerous.
Have you ever done hack squats without a machine? How they did old style?
Yeah. In fact,
the
it's
barbell
my favorite.
Up to your butt?
It's my favorite
really
exercise.
Hard to do.
Yeah, and I think the most I've ever done that is about maybe 185.
Yeah, it's hard.
And typically, I'll do maybe 100 pounds, with that.
It works the whole body.
It sure does.
All right, so you started seeing results around what age?
I probably started seeing results immediately, at least in my own mind. I probably went up from about 110 to 135, which is about a 25-30% weight gain on your body, which was significant. But still, I'm walking around probably like this, but I'm still only about $145 at that point.
It's you can gain at that age, but it's hard to put on muscle. You haven't grown into it yet. Mm-hmm. And then after that, what'd you do? How'd you get into the bodybuilding end of it?
That's a good question too. I went to Rutgers for my first degree. I went to Rutgers for my undergraduate. I went to Cal State for a master's in science. I went to Cal State for an MBA. But back then, I was 18, first one to go to college. Didn't even know if I was going to finish.
Yeah.
I went to the gym, and somebody said, "Hey, you should bodybuild." So I entered my first show, which was called Mr. Rutgers. Go figure, at Rutgers University.
That's all right.
It became a pretty famous show in New Jersey, and back then there were some significant people that had gone through the process, but it was still kind of new when I was there. I won that show. I met a guy named Ronnie Capodanno who had one of the first Gold's Gym in New Jersey. He actually had the ability to have all Gold's Gym in New Jersey, but they kept cutting up his pieces because he wouldn't expand as quick as they wanted him to. And at that point, I was fortunate enough because that was a good gym. I met Richie Gaspari, who became my training partner. For you young bucks, he's the CEO of Gaspari Nutrition.
Oh yeah, he's awesome. He made a fortune.
I had Tom Twillinger, Phil Hill, Claire Furr, just a whole host of bodybuilders that I was fortunate enough to train with at about 18 after I won that show. And then it was the Suburban, the Miss New Jersey, Empire States, and then Nationals. And that was probably, God, I'm going to show my age here now, over 30 years ago, about 30 years ago.
Time just goes.
Yeah, it sure does.
That's a lot of contests, though.
Yeah, sure.
You started judging, too.
Yeah, I became the men's athlete rep for the NPC, National Physique Committee. God, I was maybe 22 by that point. So I was athletes rep, I was judging. I got to judge with John Kemper, who you know.
I remember John Kemper, sure.
He was a pretty interesting guy, totally alpha male, kind of like a father figure for me. He was really, he was big, he was opinionated, and he knew the sport really well. And plus he was IFBB judge, so I pretty much rose to that ranking. In fact, a lot of people I left behind back then are pretty big in the IFBB today because they kept judging. I kind of moved out to California for different reasons and kind of got out of the NPC twice. I retired for 10 years 2 times, one to care for an ailing mother who's now since passed. So I'm back in the NPC, which is a whole different story, full blast now, but back then I was 100% in, and even when I wasn't, to me it's the only organization that really puts the pros.
I have a question about that, about judging. How political is judging?
That's a good question.
It is a good question.
See, the good thing about Rick's Corner is you get put on the spot to be honest, and you're going to get an honest answer at Rick's Corner.
There is favoritism in anything.
Here's the real answer, from my opinion. People are going to expect me to say, oh, it's so political. There's political, like you said, in boxing, in MMA, in anything that doesn't have hard criteria is going to be subjective. And then there are going to be some people that are maybe not 100% ethical. And it's even normal when you look at 50 people in a weight class and you know a few, if 2 people look really close to each other.
Pick the one you know.
Yeah, so it happens. But I mean, I really think the NPC has done a pretty good job, especially the last few years when I came back into the NPC. I was pretty impressed at the judging on a national level. My fiance, she goes by various names, but Diane Wynn is her competition name, also Mooey Booey.
A lot of aliases and a lot of bank accounts.
Yeah, exactly. But she took the top 5 nationals, Masters Nationals, first time out. Nobody knew she was with me. So that shows the judging is pretty fair.
But the thing is, Jeff, is that when you look at the guys and you see a guy taking 6th, and you know he should have been first, and everybody else agrees, there's got to be discrepancies there. There's got to be something done.
Yeah, I mean, it does happen, and there are some districts that are more notorious than others, from what I understand. I've been a victim a couple times of a bad score, bad judging. But also, what makes it seem so much worse, and you're right, that does happen, but for a majority amount of time, they take the high and low score, they knock it off, so statistically, it somewhat equals out. It's just, the way I see it, if I get screwed on a placing, not my opinion, but it really, people think that happened, I just need to train harder so it's not close, so that I don't get screwed. For instance, the MMA, those of you that like MMA fighting, they say don't leave it to the judges, take it under your own hands. And sometimes you can't control it. But for me, the way I look at my competition, we all like to win, but I do it to be better each time. And regardless, if somebody beats me, I'll be the first to shake their hand. I'm known for that type of sportsmanship. It is unfortunate that if you go to a show and you don't make the top 5, and it's not even like you were even there, and you spend all this money to fly out across the country or out of the country to compete, it's disappointing. But it's just, there's nobody that's competing today that doesn't know that this happens.
We all know.
So you sign up for it.
Well, the thing with the women and the fitness models, because they become pretty big in the business, there's different categories now. Right? There's also bodybuilders and there's fitness guys.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more categories. Before, when you and I competed, it was bodybuilding, that's it.
And I look at the models, because a lot of them are on my Facebook, and a lot of them are in Canada, of all places. I don't know why. But
they do have a big following up there.
Huge. Yes. But you line up 20 of them, and no disrespect, you guys are they're all pretty girls. You girls are all pretty girls. You all have great bodies. You all have the long hair, either brunette or blonde. You have the same poses. You have the spray tan. I can't tell one from another.
I start judging again the last couple of years when I came back into the NPC to compete,
Yeah.
and that's a whole interesting story how I came back to compete. But it is difficult when you're dealing with, it's hard enough when you're dealing with somebody without a back and somebody without legs, which is worse, no back or which legs.
Yeah.
But when you get 50 girls out there, and hair's done nice, the makeup's done nice,
They're
they
all
all got
great.
the tan, it is a difficult thing to judge. And as much as I have an eye for it, you know, it's something that I'm even still as a judge, I relook at the criteria, I make sure my criteria is in line with what the judges are saying to judge by today, and it is difficult.
And this is purely physical.
Yeah, I mean, it's stage presence too.
Yeah, what I'm saying, well, stage presence is important, but what I'm saying with Miss America, for example, they talk, they have hobbies,
true.
they have things, they have personalities that come up. Can they talk on a mic? What do they do for interests? Are they educated? These things all figure in. On a bodybuilding show, it's just how you look and your stage presence. And I've told I have wrestlers out here, I've told bodybuilders as well. I watch American Idol, I watch all these judges, and I watch it for one reason only. There's 3 judges, and they judge everything a person does on stage, on American Idol, in wrestling, whatever. They have the answers to stage presence. Connect with the audience. Show your best side. Smile when you're out there. Get them to engage. Get them to like you. Win them over. Pick one person in the audience and let them know that you're really there, because one person behind there's 10,000 behind them. They think it's them.
Well, that's an interesting point, because I'll tell you something. Giving a plug out for the Southern California NPC. I've been around for a long time. I decided to go to a judge's clinic last year.
Yeah.
And run by Tamara and John Lindsay and that crew. And they do it in other districts too. They do it in the Midwest, they do it in the East Coast, but I can only speak about this one. And when I came back on stage, and then my wifey there came back for the, starting for the first time, I didn't like looking at the judges and catching their eye, because it made me embarrassed. I didn't want them to think I was trophy hunting and look at me. But the reality is, straight from these judges, is they want that. They want you to look at their eyes.
Engage.
They want you to own the stage. Now, if you have a horrible physique, and there are some people that know you're not in that top 15 at all, let alone the top 5, it does look a little awkward to have this person that has a roll of fat on them that hasn't put in the time to be smiling at you like they're saying, "Here, come here, big boy."
I've seen that at the beach contest. A couple of guys don't belong on stage. They're really skinny, out of shape. But they come out and they're friendly and they're nice and they smile at people and wave to them, and everybody cheers them on because they at least try.
Here's my opinion on that. People think anybody should be in a show because you don't know their journey. Maybe they were 600 pounds, almost died. That's all nice, but the reality is these shows are getting much longer.
Yeah.
There are shows for that. The Muscle Beach show, for instance, is not an NPC show, but it's been known as a very good show that is encouraging for people to come out that isn't maybe wanting to be an IFBB bodybuilder. But there are some shows where, in my opinion, it's rude of people's time to have to sit through 7 hours of competition.
Yeah, if they're not ready for it. And that's the shows that Joe Wheatley does.
Yeah, I mean, that show, he runs it pretty quickly.
Joe runs a great show. Shout out to you, Joe. You do a great job down there. I go to every one of them. He's got everything organized. It's a huge undertaking.
See, like I said, I'm NPC, but here's what makes me unique is that show to me, you get all people that come. You get a lot of famous people that were pros. It's a big, I see people from Europe and New Jersey, New York that I don't see.
Big event.
It's a good farm system to get people a taste. My girl, for instance, she had no desire to be on stage. I wanted her, the reason I competed in that show one time was I wanted to, I wasn't going to compete anymore. I just wanted my stepdaughter to see what driven me, what shaped my life. So we do it, we won the couples.
It's motivational.
Well, what happened was, it gave my girl the confidence, and then she went on to the NPC.
Yeah.
She won the West Coast Classic figure, then she went to the Nationals, got the top 5. Top 5, your first time out, it never happens. Really I shouldn't say never, it's very rare.
Really good.
And so that show serves a place. And there are some shows across the United States that help build confidence. Those are the shows, in my opinion, that people should decide whether or not they want to do this. But if you're not ready, and this is the coach side of me, if you're not ready, there's some coaches that don't do their job and don't tell people, hey, there's a show every week. So if you're not ready, they can do a show 3 weeks later. There's a show in Southern California, I think, just about every week. So do your homework, get in shape, then get on stage.
First impression is the best impression. If it's not a good first impression, you'll get a second one.
And tying this all back, if you have done your homework in your condition, you take it from me. Catch the judge's eyes, own the stage, show your confidence. That's when the personality does matter, because the difference between you and the next person may be so small, infinitesimal, that that's another reason why your posing needs to be right.
Yeah, it has every little degree of everything, every little striation. It's very picky, but it's
a tough sport.
It's a tough sport. And the training and the diet, of course. Okay, lastly, what's your opinion on bodybuilding today? As Arnold said, the guys are overblown, out of proportion compared to what was back in the golden era.
That's a good question too. Arnold has said this at the Arnold Classic, named after Arnold. He was pretty adamant about the state of today's bodybuilding. And he has said what has been on everyone's mind for at least 5 or 10 years, around that time frame. I mean, it was on people's mind before that, but by the people in the business. But now it's down to the common person on the street. They all see the problems. And I don't know if that was the best place to do it, because he has a lot of pull. I don't know if he tried to talk to the IFBB and other organizations prior to going public. But here's my take about bodybuilding. There are so many people that love classical bodybuilding, like this lovely shirt, you know. Arnold is a classic. There's Danny Padilla. There's Frank Zane. There's my friend Samir Banu, who's now in England today, doing a Legends bit. These guys are known not just for their preparation, but their posing, their grace on stage. They had bodies that other men and women both admired.
It was a lifestyle too.
Yeah.
It wasn't a fad.
My opinion about today is I'm kind of in the age group that I'm in between both. I'm fortunate enough to have so many friends that are Mr. and Mrs. Olympia. I tell people I'm known not for my accomplishments, but I have very accomplished friends.
Yeah.
And the reality is, these bodybuilders today, I don't want to, a lot of these bodybuilders today are my friends too, so I don't want to say anything bad about them. But the reality is, I think we have to be somewhere in the middle where the judges are not rewarding overblown mass, at the expense of losing a tight waist, losing the V taper, the X taper. We can't continue to award bloated stomachs. And I'm not saying all that bloated stomachs. A lot of people say it's GH. A lot of people say no, it's insulin. Some people say it's too much carbohydrates, too much food. There's no studies that know if it's one or all three.
No one knows for sure, but the muscle grows like everything else. Someone says, go work your stomach really hard. Well, why? Because it'll grow like anything else. It's too big already. So it does grow, and your organs grow. And
I think people are eating a lot. I think today's bodybuilder, like I was eating 12,000 calories a day when I was bodybuilding years ago. I eat about maybe 7 or 8 now, not because I need to. I have a bad habit. I think if you want a tight waist, you don't need over 4,500 calories in the off season.
No, it's a lot.
You know, and I think a lot of this overeating in conjunction with GH and insulin are causing that distended stomach. I think purely that in itself is ruining bodybuilding. Conditioning is great. My friend Richie, my Gasperi, my former training partner, he created the ripped look in the ass.
Yes, he did.
But you know what? I love bodybuilding, but I appreciate the work it takes, but I don't need to see a ripped ass.
You don't need a ripped ass.
I don't need a ripped ass. You know, but I do want to see the separation, and here's where I differ from my older friends. There were shots of Arnold where he's not that defined.
Right.
That's not a knock against Arnold. I think if Arnold was competing today, he would be even more amazing than he was back then, because he has the genetics. He had the wherewithal.
He would change with the times.
And here, what is the changes? We got liquid amino acids, so I can repair my muscles without putting in extra calories. We've got 10 different types of machines. Old school lifting's great, but I've got finishing exercises. I've got so many more nutritional studies that tell me, you know what, having 20 egg yolks probably not the best thing for my diet.
No.
There's just so much more knowledge today. So, you know, where do I see bodybuilding in the next 10 years? I see the Dexter Jacksons, the Flex Wheelers, the Sean Rays, the Samir Banus, someone molding them all together, bigger, back to this tight midsection, people learning to pose. But how do we get it that way?
Yeah.
The judges have to enforce it.
By the way, I want to mention the Flex Wheeler is going to be on here next week on the 24th, so stay tuned for Flex.
Flex is a tremendous bodybuilder, and if you young bodybuilders, you need to do yourself a service and go back and look at some of the old posing. Look at the command of the stage these people have. They're not, you know, spitting their tongue out at the audience, begging for the applause.
Yeah.
These guys got the applause anyway.
Exactly.
And I think, in my opinion, that's where we're going to move back. And I hate, you know, I don't want to blame the judges necessarily either, because I think the judges have already seen that, and you start seeing some of the placings, like Branch Warren. He had amazing condition for what he had in the past, so he moved up. But there are people say, oh, he's too big, and that's not the body we like. You got to give that guy credit. He came into the best package at his age that he had. That's a bad example where people are looking and think, well, you know, Cedric McMillan should have won that show. Cedric, also, great body.
Well, it's all opinions.
You know?
Everybody has their own opinion. That's what makes life the way it
Well,
is.
here's a perfect example. The last Arnold Classic, in my opinion, you could say Sean Roden should win, and Cedric, those are the people that like the classical bodies, and I don't disagree. They're beautiful bodies. They need to come in a little bit more balanced and a little bit more ripped, and those guys are going to win. Those guys are going to beat the bigger guys, but they've got to fine-tune those areas. That's me speaking as a judge. You know, I'm very particular when I see a physique. That's why my girl does so well or is doing well, is because when we're in the gym, as you know, this is old school bodybuilding, we're always looking at, okay, my shoulders are too small, or is my arms too small? And you constantly reevaluate. Today, people are just trying to get bigger, bigger, and they have no choice because that's what was being rewarded as a win.
Right.
So I think Arnold's message it did a service by getting it out there. People wanted to hear it. They wanted to say it. I think we need to give the IFBB especially a couple of years to see how they implement the judging criteria. I think they need to go back to saying at the athletes meeting, if you come back with a GH looking stomach, you're not going to be in the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
You're not, because on a lower level, amateur bodybuilding.
There's only one way to eliminate that: do the vacuum.
Yeah. And you know what?
And lock everybody out.
You had Rich Piana on the show, and Rich is an interesting fellow. I like Rich a lot.
Rich has a very small waist.
He's a tremendous guy. There's some people that are against what he stands for, but the guy's honest. That's what I like about Rich. He's completely honest.
He's great.
He shares his knowledge, and I was going across some of his YouTubes just because I'm always trying to learn more. You know, old dog can learn new tricks. I'm always trying to learn more. And he said, you know what? How do I get my small waist? I practice the vacuum. I said, you know what? You know, I'm getting older. My waist get a little. As we get older, our waist get a little bigger. Everyone, you heard it here as well in Rick's Corner. Practice the vacuum.
Exactly.
Even if you can't do it, the end result will be a smaller waist. You know,
it trains the muscles to come in. So, in closing, are you going to be down at the beach contest this year?
Yeah, I'm actually a pro fight sponsored athlete, profightsports.com. I love the beach. First of all, we're lucky enough to live in Southern California, so if you can get out to the beach, you know, why not? And I like to support up-and-coming bodybuilders. I see all my friends there. I always run into you. I run into Samir and all these other friends that I have. So for me, it's a good time. I'm going to be there. The competition, even at that, I used to say that's a good training ground for future bodybuilders, but there's getting to be some strong competition. That's
strong competition. I'll tell you something. He runs a good show. There's a lot of people. This year, on Memorial Day, Labor Day, 4th of July, I have a booth.
Oh, fantastic.
Finally have a booth.
What's the booth's name?
It's Rick Drasin Originals T-shirts.
All right.
The original gold design, all the other, my golden era bodybuilding, Muscle Beach. I have all these T-shirt designs and V-necks and tank tops and narrowback. So I'll have a booth down there. You come by and say hi. Jeff will be down there as well. There'll be a lot of guys there you'll want to meet, and you need to come by and say hello and grab a shirt.
The most important thing, if you're patriotic, I'm telling you, on Memorial Day, it's a sight to be seen. There's going to be a flyby. I'm not going to describe it more than that. It's incredible. Yeah. You probably only see it one time.
The military, they do a big deal. All right, so where can people reach you if they want you on the internet?
Basically, I have a few websites. I'm CEO of MuscleMagFitness.com, but I think the easiest way to reach me is I have a Facebook group called Muscle Mag Fitness as well. It's got 20,000 people, 250,000 monthly visitors. I try to put free information on there to help people with bodybuilding nutrition. So that's probably the best place to reach.
Okay, well, we'll post this on there so they can see it. I want to thank you for being here.
No, thank you.
And it's a real pleasure. I'll have you back again. We'll talk about more stuff because we can talk forever.
Sure can. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. So keep grinding.
Yeah, keep grinding. Thanks for watching Rick's Corner, and stay tuned for more. As I said, I got Flex Leader coming up next week. You'll like that.
It's RickDrasin.com. He is the equalizer, baby. See you next time.